Today we've got a takeover episode. Wah, wah. This particular takeover is coming straight from a new podcast I've created called the Connect to Market Pod. And it's coming straight to you, straight to your ears. You don't even have to click on anything. Now, Connect to Market, what is this, Casey? It's a new pod, but it's also a community of marketing leaders. And if you like what you hear or you want to join the conversation, come on over. Head over to connecttomarket.com. Connecttomarket.com. All right, let's do this. Welcome to Connect to Market. I'm Casey Cheshire. Join us as we learn from marketing leaders who are driving founder-led growth. We're sponsored by Ringmaster, building B2B podcasts and communities to reconnect you with your audience. Okay, here we go. I'm excited. We hit the button. This thing is off to the races, and I can't wait to introduce the guest for today. And she's right out of the community. You might have been in a breakout session with her, and you will know when I say all these introduction things, you'll be like, yep, absolutely. I remember her. I absolutely remember she was on fire in that community event. Well, who is she, Casey? Who is she? Well, a leader and a thought leader, marketing, ops, growth, you name it. More than 20 years of experience as an executive, Target, Lexmark, all sorts of really great brands, great companies, and her expertise goes across digital marketing, e-com, rev, the full funnel customer journey and experience, you name it. Growth advisor at Del Sol Digital, KB Burdette, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
I almost lost myself in that introduction. You are just busy doing things.
Busy and yeah, I've seen it all.
Yeah. So let's roll up our sleeves here and get to it here. The spotlight is on you. What is the one thing that marketers need to do to connect to their market?
Yeah, so this topic comes up a lot, I think, in our roundtable, Connect to Market roundtable, quite a bit. So I would say the single most important strategy for connecting to your market is to do the research. Really get to know your audience, understand who they are, and also where to find them. How do you connect to them? Where do you connect with them? I have some unconventional approaches to this. And I love anytime I get the chance to share those, I love to share those.
Yeah. So do the research. So, man, how many times do we just, as marketers, do we just kind of like want to get right to the channel or like get right to compose new message in HubSpot and haven't taken the time to answer even the basic questions about our buyers?
Yeah, it's very common. And I think a lot of times the pressure comes from, who you're working for, whether that's the founders or the C-suite or, whoever that is, sales team. I think a lot of times people just want to jump right in and throw something at the wall and see what sticks. But I can tell you from experience and many years of experience, that doesn't work. You're going to waste a lot of money. It's going to be frustrating for you. I think it kind of reflects on your performance at some point in time. Eventually, it's like, hey, this isn't working. Must be you. When actually it probably isn't. It's, you're throwing things at the wall. You're trying to see what works, what doesn't work. But it's really incredibly important to do the research and get to know your audience first before you go in and dive in and start to throw messaging and various different channels. Because the other thing I will say is not every channel is great for your company, your brand, your product, your SaaS, your AI, your whatever you're selling. That's pretty important too. I've learned a lot, especially recently. Joined a couple of different groups. Yours is one of them, and in another kind of startup founder group. And the things that I learned from other people is really valuable too. LinkedIn, I'm starting to see the trend on LinkedIn where, people are just using ChatGPT to post whatever, right? But for us that are in marketing, I'm annoyed by it now. I'm at the point where I'm kind of annoyed by it, and I'm spending less time on LinkedIn because I don't think the answers are there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so annoyed by it too. Absolutely. In fact, I just got a message today. Let me see if I can find it here. It was ridiculous. Riddle me this. Great to hear from you, Casey. Love that podcasting has been bringing you in so many leads. M dash. Totally makes sense with your approach and energy. For me, I've been focused on what I call sell by chat. M dash. Personalized, value driven LinkedIn conversations. Genuine, short message, blah, blah, blah. Curious. M dash. When you say podcasts are driving leads, is it mainly impact? You know what I'm saying? Like, this was on LinkedIn. And it like, this
Oh,
guy
the M
doesn't know me
dash
that
gives it
well.
away, you know?
Yeah, he gives it
So
away. Also, he doesn't know me that well.
right.
He's not really writing all these things to me, is he? You
Oh,
know?
yeah. Exactly. You know, one of my favorites was, I got some messages, some DMs on LinkedIn, and they were like, "Hey, we really love what you guys are doing on, Instagram." Well, we weren't using Instagram.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I know you're just, like,
Right.
spamming everybody. Um,
Oh, you know what's funny too? I got one so on my LinkedIn, it says I do ski patrol, right? And this automated message was like, "Does Crotchet Mountain Ski Patrol need, a better CRM and a list of data buyers for" and I'm like, "Obviously not." That it's for skiing and rescuing people on the side of a mountain. Like, whatever weird automation it's actually I should leave that in there because it's like a nice, like, false flag that just flags for people that you totally just skim that off of LinkedIn. Man. Oh, well, hey, real quick, you brought up the spaghetti against the wall, right? Throwing it again and I love that imagery. And as you brought it up, it made total sense that while it's fun to do that, and there's certain times and places to do that, there's so many permutations that if your sole strategy or your starter strategy is throw, see what sticks, you may not get anything to stick,
that's exactly right.
and then you're out, right?
Right. I
Dang.
mean, it's not a great approach. It's you've gotta do the research first to really get to know, your audience, and it's okay if you don't even really know enough about your audience, coming out of the gate, because if you take some of these unconventional approaches, I think you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn a lot. I think it's important to document a lot of what you're learning,
Yeah.
so that you can go back to it, and tweak it and change it because it is gonna evolve. It is gonna change. But, throwing stuff against the wall is not it's just not the way to do it.
That's not it.
No, you're gonna waste a lot of money and time.
Losing strategy. So, all right. So the real question here, the $1,000,000 question is like, when you say do the research, what do we gotta do?
So I have 2 favorite kind of unconventional approaches, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you guys all the details about both of those. So,
Okay.
my first one is trade shows. If you can go to trade shows and have those conversations in person with your ICP or your target audience, I think that's great. That's the conventional way to do that. However, there's a couple challenges with that. You typically talk to a limited number of people because there's only so much time. And a lot of time you're going to keynotes, you're going to sessions, you're listening, you're doing a lot of, listening. And then some of those networking events, you know, it's it's sort of like going hunting. Like you're trying to find someone who is your audience to have a conversation with them, but it doesn't always happen. I think a lot of, startups, they don't necessarily have the money to do a full booth, that full experience, get the team there, have, 20, 50, 100 conversations. So one of the things that I love to do when starting out is to actually just look at the website, comb through the trade show website, create a list of keywords, buzzwords to find new ways or, the way to talk to your audience. So look at the event schedule, read every single keynote, read every single session description that is even closely related to the problem that you're solving or whatever it is that you're doing. During that event, if you're not there, that's okay. Read the event's blogs, look for their LinkedIn posts, go through their sponsors, find maybe your competitors, read their LinkedIn posts about what's going on, at the show or at the conference. To see what people are getting excited about, to see what people are interacting, maybe with the sponsors or the trade show itself on their posts. And then from that, you want to create a list of about 50 themes or phrases that you can use and sort of test with headlines, emails, display ads, landing pages, case studies, blogs, and even sales calls. It's important to have dialogue with your sales team so that everybody's on the same page. Everyone's speaking the same language, the language of your audience, your customers.
Right. Not your own language, but their
Yes.
language.
Yes.
Man, what a great way. Thank you so much for sharing that hack. What a great way to get the data and not even being at the conference.
Yep.
And if you're tweeting about it too, like you could have people saying, "Hey, where are you at?" I'm like, "I'm not even there, but I'm there virtually." Um, yeah, what a challenge it can be. And as you mentioned the networking events and how it's like hunting, I also was thinking, man, sometimes the challenge is at the networking event, at the end of the day, I mean, I are you gonna be the one person talking shop when everyone's just trying to get a drink and, like, talk
Right.
about the weather in San Diego
Right.
and their kids or whatever, and you're like, "Yeah, but cool, but tell me about the problem that's facing you with agentic, changes over here," and you're
Right.
like, "Mm,
Right. I mean,
yeah, maybe it's not the right time."
you go to these trade shows and oftentimes you come back and you have to prove the value of being there, you know,
Mhm.
to justify the expenses, of being at these conferences and trade shows and having the conversations and ultimately getting the meetings, right? That's
Totally.
everyone's goal. Um, and it's, there's this direct correlation with that. But in my opinion, there's another way to use trade shows to get to know your audience without even being there. And this is it. Do the
Brilliant.
research, comb the
Brilliant.
website, comb the LinkedIn posts, just spy. Spy on the
Right.
event without being at the event.
Yeah, and I also love the takeaway of the 50 phrases or themes that you can take away from that one event. Man, that's worth its weight in gold, and then all your marketing can be related to that. But you're also reading the the way that they're phrasing the different events too in the different speaking sessions, and I could totally see right, because they're gearing those events to get people to come to them.
Yep.
So they're gonna be at their best. They're gonna be using whatever phrases and key pain points they think are best optimized to get attention. And the description, same way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could see that being an absolute gold mine.
Yeah. One of the ways that I came about this was just kind of thinking back to early stages in my career. I was really fortunate enough to be at Target's headquarters. And, we were the target for every agency, every solution, every
I
digital
bet.
platform that existed, right? Everybody wanted our business. So I really just kind of paid attention to who were the ones that were able to kind of get through to us. What were they doing? And the key for me was they knew how to talk to us. They almost knew our language. Every company kind of has their own lingo, right? The way that they think about things, the way that they talk about things, what they call their role inside their company, right?
Mhm.
It's really important to know and understand those things and what they're responsible for. What are their KPIs? When you understand their role and what they're responsible for, it just makes the conversation so much easier. Then you start to sort of layer on some of these buzzwords and phrases that are being used at the trade shows. The way that when you go to some of the smaller sessions and they're talking about case studies or they're sharing some kind of thing that they did that worked really well, it's important to pick up on those things because the attendees at those trade shows are going to leave those trade shows and they're going to talk about those things. Oh man, how can we do that? How can we execute the same type of campaign or how can we grow in that channel because we're not even using
Mhm.
that channel, or is it even appropriate for us? I mean, there's just so many different ways to look at it, but when you really start to kind of understand what happens at these trade shows, and again, you don't have to be there, but you really
Uh,
just you got to do the research, you got to put the time in, you have to really dig in to understand.
This reminds me of like that old school method of like newsjacking, like, oh, the news was about XYZ. And so you come out with this kind of topic.
Yep.
But oh man, how cool. I've not heard this before. How cool to there's something a buzz at an event, and then your email, maybe Tuesday, a little bit after, all everyone else's email is like, "Hey, there's trend around XYZ, and we're capitalizing on it." And you're like, "Dang, I was just thinking about how I could execute that because I got all hyped up about it at the event." Like,
Right.
perfect timing.
Yep.
And that could drive some urgency, that could drive a little bit more action so they don't just kind of hang out in the middle of your funnel too.
Right. And
Dang.
relevancy, it's like
Relevancy.
how many times have you and I been, reached out to on LinkedIn or through DM, and it's like these people don't get me. It's they don't know what I'm doing. They clearly haven't done any research.
Yep.
And I have zero connection with this person. So bye, delete. It's kind of amazing to me. And there are people out there that believe, that volume is the play right now. Send out 10,000 spam emails. I just don't think that's the way to go.
That's not it.
Nope.
That's not it. Yeah. And I think it's quickly becoming more and more not the way to do it. Right. And it only gets worse as you add in AI and everything else. So
Yep.
absolutely brilliant. And that's just one of two. So what was the other power research move?
Okay. So if your company is lucky enough to be using some kind of an insights platform like 6sense, Zoom Info, RB2B, something like that, right? I have sort of an unconventional hack with 6sense. I brought it up on one of their webinars in the chat, and people were freaking out about it because they don't think about it like this, right? So the thing about marketing tech stacks is you're typically trained by onboarding teams, and they've not really ever walked even a block in your shoes.
Seriously.
They know
So
how to
true.
configure the platform, but they actually don't know how to leverage the platform to better understand your audience. So, these kinds of platforms, they're known for alerting you when someone visits your website. But I'll share an example of how I used 6sense to get better results across all my different channels of marketing. So the first thing is take that list of keywords that you just figured out from, going to a trade show or studying a trade show or researching their website or whatever it is. So start with that list. It can be 50, it can be 100, it can be whatever it is. Upload that into 6sense. I think 6sense and Zoom Info, they always have you kind of start with a list of keywords like that. In the onboarding process, that's where they start you. So make sure it's coming from a good place, like the research that you did from a trade show, not your internal sales team, not your developers.
Yeah.
Right? Not internally. Know what's going on in your market.
Yeah.
And then for your audience, do not use the filters in these tools like 6sense and Zoom Info. I have found that approach is way less effective than if you just start with a list of 200 plus of your best customers that you've curated. These are either your 200 current best customers, or it's whoever you think is your best 200, or who you want. If you had 200 of the most amazing customers, they were always in your platform, they were always using your software, they were always using your AI, they're logging in daily, they're spreading it to their teams. Now you've got multiple team members using it, right? Those are your best customers, the ones that are constantly using it. Start with 200 of them. Okay, so you've got your list of keywords, buzzwords from the market, from the industry, from the trade shows. You've got your list of 200 or so customers, that will match, right? So 6sense, they have some kind of a process. You really only need like 3 things about that company to upload it. It's like, what country are they in? What domain is it? And I forget the third one, but it's very little that you have to know about these companies. Now, run a really cheap, inexpensive display campaign to those 200 companies to see what messaging, headlines, keywords that you took from the trade show gets them to your campaign landing page. Just keep iterating until you know what messaging works. Now you're going to have it down to kind of a science of these 10, these 20, these whatever, however many phrases are really getting them to click through. Those are the things that you want to kind of focus on. Here's a tip, bonus tip. Write blogs and articles using those 10, 20, whatever keywords are performing the best to become known in the industry as the expert around whatever thing that you do, surrounding the things that your audience cares about. That's kind of what the reaction was on this webinar. Even 6sense, didn't even think of this, right? They weren't even thinking along these lines of like, this is how you use our product. I think everybody just starts with the conventional. You upload your keywords, you filter based on, you know, company, location, size, whatever. Your list of 200 plus best could be anything, right? But they're your 200 best. You want more of those. So when you figure out what, words work the best with those 200, then use the filters. Don't start with the filters. Start with the 200 best. Upload that into 6sense. And now you've got sort of a plan, a strategy to go after a larger audience. Then when you use your filters, you will start to see, more companies like that are interested in what you have to say.
Man. And I see the follow on with the blog and articles just absolutely establishing you as the thought leader in that space. And you're talking about exactly what people want to hear about.
Yep.
What they've been, and it all ties back into that original research. And now I feel like this is like a 2-part masterclass, and it doesn't require overcomplicating and in an intricate knowledge of 6sense or any tool you're using. It's like straightforward. In fact, you're like, don't get overcomplicated at the beginning. Start with these 200.
Yep.
Go from there.
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, I truly believe I think more companies, if they started to take this approach, they would see more success and growth over time versus, everyone is coming out of the gate and they hire like a growth hacker or an advisor like myself. And they're just expecting an instant rocket ship. I hired you, you're a growth advisor. I'm going to go from 0 to, 20 million in 6 months. No, it doesn't work like that. It takes time, but you've got to have sort of the right mentality and the right approach, I think, with some of what is in your tech stack. Use it unconventionally, think about it differently in order to get the best results.
Right. Unconventional. And it's just really the results. I can see that being completely unfair.
It's good. I mean,
and all your competition is like, dang it. How are they one step ahead?
I get great results doing this.
Mhm.
It's like when we meet with our 6sense rep or whatever, the tool is, when we think about it in unconventional ways and we kind of share these stories and they're like, wow, that's a great campaign.
Yeah.
And they think it's the headline. They think it's the landing page. They think it's the offer or something, right? But that's not it. We started with the research. We really got to know our audience. And then we tested, some of that with a really, really small group of who would be the best 200 plus customers.
And that's the key point, is that observing this from the outside, you would think, oh man, they just really cracked the open rate with that. Their email must be set up well for that open rate, or the subject line is so good, the headline, and it's like, well, it might be good, but it's not just good because it randomly came out of a ChatGPT,
Right.
Creation. It's because it's grounded in exactly what your 200 are talking about.
So another good thing about these platforms, in your tech stack, a lot of times they'll do like a webinar on best practices or, whatever. So if you're talking about if you're talking about display ads, a lot of these platforms will have, a best practices webinar. So they'll tell you, don't use more than 10 words in your headline. Your colors need to be contrasting in order to pop off the page. Otherwise, you blend into the article or wherever your ad is. Make sure it's relevant. One of the best combinations that I've ever used in display ad campaigns is, real short headlines like that. 10 words or less. Learn more is the button. And the landing page is a case study. So if you can use an example of a company or a customer that has had great success with your platform, product, agency, whatever, and create a landing page, sort of case study landing page about their experience with it and make that their headline, the click-through and the conversion is incredible.
Amazing. I bet it is. I mean, and it would be because it makes logical sense that it would be. Dang. Well, shoot, I feel like we can go home now. Like, now I need the time back to be able to go execute this. Definitely gonna loop my marketing team in on this kind of thing, and this is really powerful stuff. Um, Next question for you is a little bit aside from this, but, I mean, we've been in this community together for a bit, and I love seeing you at the event. What's your take on, Connect to Market community, some of the events you've been to, for those who maybe haven't been to them yet, what's your take?
Definitely join. I mean, so one of the things historically, so I've jumped back and forth in my career from, doing projects and consulting work and advising to, all right, this company wants me to jump full force, 2 years. Let's dig in and let's really, get this thing working. And I will say the one thing when I would jump in full force with a company and really sort things out for them, the thing that was missing for me was having a group, a networking group to go to say, hey, I'm doing XYZ and it is not working. What are you doing? I think the group has grown big enough now where you could probably find someone regardless of what platform you're stuck on, regardless
Yeah.
what channel isn't working and you're like, okay, should I give up on this channel or should I try something different? And if I'm going to try something different, what do I even try? So having a group of people where it's confidential and you feel like you can share your worst of your worst campaigns or experiences or challenges internally, it's gold. It's, something that is definitely missing. So the last 3 companies that I have worked for, so worked from the inside, they were PE-backed, VC-backed companies, right? And so you report to someone in the C-suite, typically, like a VP of marketing would report to someone in the C-suite, whether that's the founder or, chief revenue or whatever, right? You're accountable to that person. A lot of times they have a connection to the investors. And the investors will sometimes say, well, this company over here that we invest in is crushing it. Like, how come you're not crushing Google or email marketing or whatever the channel is, right? When you have external people trying to drive and control what it is you're doing or kind of in your ear telling you what is and isn't working, but you haven't really dug in yourself, it can change things and it can make things so difficult because a lot of times I would go back to, my chief revenue officer and I'd be like, okay, well, what is that company doing? Can we talk to them?
Yeah.
The answer is no. So, okay, now what? Right? So it's so great to have a community like this because we all kind of have our challenges and our struggles, especially right now. I would say especially for the last 3 years, it's been a challenge. So having a community of people that you can connect with and trust and bounce ideas off of is just, it's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that we can sound like a sounding board for each other can just be really powerful. And you know what? It's oftentimes not even the obvious questions. Sometimes it's those subtle things, or in this case, the research. Man, I feel like this is a must listen to episode. Well, we've interacted a bunch, we've talked a bunch, but my next question for you is really, who are you? Who are you? How do you know all these things? Can you take me back in time to little KB days? Did you know you're going to be a marketing leader? You know, doing the work, creating these campaigns, driving growth, or what was it like?
Yeah. So I grew up in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. Mom and dad kept my brother and I out of trouble on the weekends, in the summer especially, just by being out on the lake. So I'm definitely a nature person. I love my downtime. just to be able to think, like connect with myself. And
Yeah.
went to college. I graduated with math communications and graphic design minor, I think. And you know, I really thought I was going to go work for an ad agency. Like I don't know why I had that in my head, but e-commerce was really picking up steam. So, after a couple of small companies in kind of the Minneapolis area, I ended up working at Target's headquarters for about 6 years. I learned a lot about what it means to do innovative marketing. I mean, they
I
were
bet.
crushing it, back in the day. They still crush it. Um, so I took sort of that innovative approach and thinking and strategies, to a global company, Lexmark, and I was able to travel the globe, connect with other marketing teams around the world. I really spent the first half of my career being a total sponge. Um, After Lexmark, I did about 5 years, almost 5 years there. I came back to e-commerce and worked for a regional retailer. And for a while, then I made a jump to the B2B space because I started to see e-commerce, what you can attach to it, and how powerful it can be for, your sales, your brand, your audience, whatever it is. Unfortunately, um, after my jump to the B2B space and technology and data, my son got really sick in
Oh, no.
2015. Yeah. So I stepped away from corporate life. I homeschooled him through the home hospital program. I wanted him to be able to move on in life.
Wow.
And he got better, so it's all good.
That's
He's
good.
incredibly, healthy, strong, great. Um, but when he was not well, I picked up a few projects. At this time, and then over the next 10 years was kinda going back and forth, like I mentioned, between corporate roles, like VP levels in marketing, and then helping former colleagues figure things out and putting
Yeah.
together strategies for them. So I finally made the leap this year, start my own digital agency, Del Sol Digital. Um, we live in Tampa, Florida. Um, I like to consider myself solar powered. We love to
Yeah.
be outside. I have a beautiful garden in the backyard, so I'm always digging in the dirt. Um, I've been on a health kick for the last year or so. Um, I don't know, hoping to start a tiny citrus and herb farm next year. I don't know. I could
Hell
go on and
yeah.
on.
Yeah, hell yeah, though. It's funny, like, we did homeschooling as well for our son, and man, it is one of the most underrated, underappreciated things because it is work, and I think sometimes the thought is that, like, people are slacking, and maybe there are some people in the hill country somewhere, but genuine parents who take on that role, like, "Oh my gosh, are you in your room 24/7?" And it's usually because something's not easy, so it doesn't mean it's like, "Oh, let me just coast through life here." So that is a real thing. And even then, during that, you're picking on different projects and testing the waters here. So, I mean, my hat's off to you. That is an absolute I think it's a blessing. I'm sure it was a blessing for him too to really set him on the right track, but then also
Yeah.
gave you the freedom to pick up, some other paths.
Well, and that was really kind of a turning point for me where, I
Yeah.
think I always, like I said, like after graduating college, I thought I was gonna work for an agency. And I never worked for an agency until or myself until my son got sick. And I think that was just it was not a blessing that he got so sick, but
No.
it turned into like sort of proving to myself like I don't have to always work for a company. Like I can take all of what I have learned and share that with a lot of different companies, a lot of different brands to help a lot of different, companies grow. Um, so it was pivotal, definitely a pivotal moment for me. And I think in that moment too, I realized that I had really built up a great network of people throughout my career and what it had been, to that point. Um, I've just been so fortunate to work with really smart, talented people um, who are great collaborators. When
Yeah.
that's another sort of thing about, like, my philosophies. Like, if you don't have great dialogue with the people that you're working with and for, and it's really more of a, you know, one-way communication, like telling you what to do, that's a problem. But I've been just so incredibly fortunate to work with people who, were great at collaboration. So when someone reached out to me, I mean, it wasn't even in my plan. I just had planned to take care of my sick son and help him, move on to the next grade
Yeah.
and go
Yeah.
back to school.
Yeah.
But someone had reached out and they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Taking care of my sick son." So it was,
Were they like, well, do you have any more free time?
yeah. They're like, how much like free time do you have? I was like, why are you asking?
Right.
Right. So we got into the conversation and it ended up being just a great sort of springboard for me to kind of go off eventually on my own, which is where I am.
Man, powerful. Well, my next question for you is a bit of a hypothetical question. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Because you see, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire. And you come visit, little, marketing event in Boston, maybe HubSpot brings it back to Boston. Who knows? But you're in Boston, we come visit, and the time machine's in the backyard. It's covered in a tarp, people. So we hop on this thing, but it's a special time machine where you get to go back in time and meet yourself 4 days after graduating with that marketing comm degree, right? So, like, what would you tell that KB? What would you tell yourself back then?
Be open to anything. I think a lot of college graduates think that they have their mindset on a certain path. I actually just did an interview with someone who was my intern who's in college now, and one of her assignments was to interview someone, a leader in marketing. So this is the exact same advice I gave her as well as her classmates. Be open to anything. Learn everything. Even AI. I mean, I know there's so much talk about AI is gonna take over our jobs, and it's not. It's a great tool. It's a great tool for ideation. It's a great tool if you are, um, experiencing writer's block, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
copywriters everywhere. Um, it can, help generate different ideas. It can use different words that you maybe would not have pulled out of your brain. I mean, they're great tools, but my advice would be just have a really open mind because this can go anywhere. And I think sort of the path of marketing over the last 20 years has proven that.
Yeah. Just be open. Man, do you think if you told your younger self that, would you listen?
No, I was pretty stubborn. I always tell people, especially if I'm, talking to a potential new client or whatever it is, I was incredibly fortunate to start my career at Target.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons, but the biggest reason being they were so experimental back in those days. We didn't have anything figured out. I think our team was called interactive marketing.
Huh.
And the goal was engagement. That's the word now. But back then we were using, interactive. We want our guests to interact with our brand. So it's just really interesting how far things have come. But that being at headquarters at a very big company like that was really doing some pretty wild and innovative and crazy things was just, man, so lucky for me. My husband
Yeah.
and I actually, we were just talking about the other day. He was asking me like, what are some of the wackiest, things that you guys did? Um, and at the time, Target Corporation owned a company called Marshall Fields, which I think eventually became Macy's. Um, the Macy's flagship store was, I think, downtown Chicago. We did a vertical fashion show on the side of the building.
Really?
We partnered with Yahoo to make it, a big deal. I'm aging myself right now, but regardless, it's fine.
Still.
It's it, testing the waters and doing really wild and crazy things was such a great start for me because it really kind of allowed me to say, like, you don't have to stay in the box. You don't have to, you know, do what everyone else is doing. Everyone else was trying to do what they were doing. So
Right.
it was a really good sort of foundational start for me from a career perspective. Forever grateful.
Yeah, what a launch pad to be the place that can try wacky things. First of all, they have the leadership to be able to try it, but then also have the budget to be able to pull it off.
Yep. I mean, that's the other thing, right? So startups, you got zero budget. But that's why I'm giving you these tips and these hacks and these tricks because you don't need a ton of money.
There it is. Boom. Where can people reach out? They want to connect with you.
Just go to the website, tellsouldigital.com.
All right. We'll link right to that. It'll be in the show notes. People can hit you up with that. Man, thank you so much for coming on here. I don't know if you look, it's been like a time warp of its own, just this conversation and time's flown by. Thank you. I feel like, again, masterclass, your hacks, the idea of farming the data from the events, not even being at them,
Nope.
because there's the challenges to be at them, but to farm the data and the details of the events, even on the website, and using that to empower the Sixth Sense and the other tools to go after that 200 and to prove it. And then, man, the blogs, the articles, it's so efficient. It sounds so effective. I can't wait to do it myself. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
For those listening, if you learned something, I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back. Then share this with someone else. 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 9,000 be cool, but even 1 person, like, who needs to hear this? If you bump into someone that's struggling to try to get their marketing to resonate with their buyers, it's not the headline, it's not that latest trick or that this or that. It's just doing the research. If they need to hear it, share this episode with them. And man, happy hunting out there, everyone. This is going to be such a good, I can't wait to do this. So again, KB, you were the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. It was fun.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, exciting episode of Connect to Market, the pod. We will catch you all next time. That wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at connecttomarket.com. Connect to Market is sponsored by Ringmaster, creating podcasts and communities that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth.